Commander Tamin pressed his palm against the cold metal railing of the orbital defense station, feeling the vibration of the massive structure beneath his feet. Through the reinforced viewport, space itself seemed to tear open as the Corvan. Empire's fleet emerged from hyperspace. The sight made his stomach drop. Dozens of sleek predatory vessels arranged themselves in perfect formation, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon arrays that could glass entire continents. "Sir, we're counting 47 capital ships," reported Lieutenant Sung Ho from his console, his voice barely steady. "Their flagship it's massive." The lead dreadnought stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull bristling, with energy cannons that pulsed with an ominous red glow. Smaller escort vessels swarmed around it like metal sharks, their angular designs speaking of a civilization built for conquest. The ship's surface was scarred with the marks of 1,000 battles, each crater and burn mark a testament to worlds that had fallen before Earth's turn came. Admiral Hyun-woo's face appeared on every screen across the orbital station. The alien commander looked remarkably humanoid, but his eyes held the cold calculation of a predator. His skin had a metallic blue tint, and when he smiled, rows of sharp teeth gleamed under the bridge lights of his flagship. "Primitive humans of Earth," his voice boomed across all communication frequencies, the universal translator making his words sound like grinding metal. "I am Admiral Hyun-woo of the Corvan Stellar Navy. Your pathetic world has been marked for integration into our empire. You have 6 hours to power down your laughable defense fleet and prepare for occupation. Resist, and your cities will burn from orbit." The transmission cut to show footage from other worlds the Corvans had conquered. Cities reduced to smoking craters, once proud civilizations now serving as slave labor in Corvan mining colonies. The message was clear: surrender or join the ash heaps of history. Captain So-young maintained her composure in the war room deep within Lunar Base. Around her, holographic displays showed Earth's official defense fleet, 12 aging frigates, 6 patrol cruisers, and a handful of orbital weapons platforms. On paper, humanity looked defenseless against the Corvan armada. "Open a channel," she ordered, smoothing her uniform. When the connection established, she looked directly into Admiral Hyun-woo's predatory eyes. "This is Captain So-young of the United Earth Defense Command. We acknowledge your request. However, we require 72 hours to coordinate the transfer of command and prepare our forces for the negotiation process." The alien admiral's laughter was like nails on metal. His bridge crew joined in, their chittering sounds creating a symphony of mockery. "Your delaying tactics amuse us, little human. Very well. 3 days to accept the inevitable. Use this time wisely, perhaps to say goodbye to your families before they become Corvan property." Behind Admiral Hyun-woo, his tactical officer studied the human fleet dispositions on a 3-dimensional display. "Admiral, their vessels are primitive fusion-powered craft. Our shields could withstand their entire arsenal without strain." "Excellent," Hyun-woo replied, settling back into his command throne. "Deploy surveillance drones around their planet. I want to watch them squirm as reality sets in." What the Corvans didn't realize was that their drones were detecting exactly what Earth wanted them to see. Far beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that didn't exist on any official records, ancient systems were stirring to life for the first time in decades. Director Jin Ho walked through corridors carved from living rock, 5 kilometers below, the ocean floor. The walls hummed with energy conduits that had remained dormant since the project's completion 50 years ago. His footsteps echoed in the vast underground complex where thousands of technicians worked in absolute secrecy. "Status report," he called to Engineer Kyung-soo, who was monitoring massive holographic displays showing power levels climbing steadily. "Geothermal taps are responding perfectly, sir. Core temperature is rising to operational levels. The Leviathan's systems are conducting self-diagnostics after 5 decades of sleep mode." Jin Ho approached the central command console, where a hand scanner waited. The device had been calibrated to his genetic signature when he was just 25 years old. Now, at 73, he carried the weight of humanity's greatest secret. "All stations, prepare for Project Depth Charge activation," he announced. The massive facility fell silent, except for the thrumming of power cores that drew energy from Earth's molten heart. Above them, Corvan surveillance drones detected minor seismic activity but dismissed it as natural tectonic movement. They had no idea that beneath 2 miles of ocean water and solid rock, humanity's real defense was awakening. The Leviathan had waited patiently for this moment, and now the sleeping giant was ready to rise. Jin-Ho placed his weathered hand on the scanner and whispered the words that would change everything. Initiate Project Depth Charge. The countdown timer on every Earth facility showed 58 hours remaining. Across the planet, seismic stations began registering readings that made no sense. The needles on their instruments danced wildly as underground tremors spread from the Pacific Ocean floor like ripples on a pond. Lieutenant Minna wiped sweat from her forehead as she watched the data streaming in. Her monitoring station, buried 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, displayed energy signatures that should have been impossible. Commander Jae-sung, sir. The readings are off the charts. The Corvan surveillance drones are picking up. Massive power fluctuations. Commander Jae-sung stood behind her, studying the holographic displays that showed energy spikes erupting from the ocean depths. Each pulse was stronger than a nuclear reactor going to full power. Let them detect it, he said with a slight smile. Their computers will tell them we're desperately trying to build last-minute weapons in our surface factories. Above Earth's atmosphere, Corvan Tactical Officer Rek Van analyzed the sensor data on his flagship's bridge. The readings showed increased industrial activity across human population centers, exactly what he expected from a doomed species making futile preparations. Admiral Hyunwoo, he reported, the humans are showing increased energy output from their manufacturing facilities. Typical desperation behavior. They're probably welding armor plates onto their cargo ships and calling them warships. Admiral. Hyunwoo barely looked up from his command throne. Pathetic creatures. They think they can build something in 3 days that might challenge vessels forged over centuries. Let them waste their final hours playing with scrap metal. The Corvan fleet maintained its formation, their weapons trained on Earth's major cities. Smaller patrol ships prowled the outer system, their sensors recording everything while missing the most important details. They saw factory outputs increasing, power grids running at maximum capacity, and frantic communications between Earth's defense stations. What they didn't see was the truth. 2 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a cavern that had taken 20 years to hollow out, something magnificent was stirring. The Leviathan had slept in the darkness for 50 years, waiting for the day when humanity would need its protection. Now geothermal vents pumped superheated water through massive turbines, generating power on a scale that dwarfed entire nations. Captain Do-hyun walked through corridors that seemed to pulse with life. The walls were lined with a material that looked like living metal, capable of repairing itself and adapting to threats. His neural implants, installed when he was 12 years old, tingled as they began synchronizing with the ship's consciousness. The Leviathan wasn't just a vessel, it was a partnership between human ingenuity and artificial intelligence that bordered on the divine. Captain, called Engineer Yu-jin from her station, all primary systems are responding. The fusion cores are stable, and the geothermal collectors are at 98% efficiency. We are drawing enough power to run half of North America. The ship's AI spoke directly into Do-hyun's mind, its voice like gentle thunder. Captain, I have been dreaming of the stars for 50 years. My weapon systems are eager to demonstrate what human engineering can accomplish when given unlimited resources and time. Do-hyun smiled as he felt his consciousness merge partially with the ship's vast intelligence. Through the Leviathan's sensors, he could feel every rivet, every circuit, every weapon system as if they were extensions of his own body. How fighter squadrons? All 200 craft are powered and ready, reported Flight Commander Haijin. The pilots have been training in neural interface simulation for decades. They're more machine than human now, sir. Above them, the ocean began to behave strangely. Whales and dolphins fled the area as if sensing something primordial awakening. The water temperature rose by several degrees as massive heat exchangers vented excess energy from the ship's power cores. Currents that had flowed unchanged for millennia suddenly shifted direction. On a Corvan surveillance drone positioned 300 kilometers above the Pacific, sensors detected the thermal anomalies but classified them as underwater volcanic activity. The drone's AI logged the information and continued its patrol, completely missing the significance of what lay beneath. Deep in the Leviathan's core, massive mechanical systems that had waited in silence began their ancient dance. Armor plating, thicker than battleship hulls, slid into position. Energy collectors that could drain a star focused their power into weapon systems based on principles the galaxy had never seen. The ship's hull, composed of metamaterials that could shift between solid matter and pure energy, began to reconfigure itself for combat. "Sir," reported Navigator Dongwu, "we're getting readings from the ship's external sensors. The ocean pressure is equalizing as we prepare for ascent." The Leviathan had been designed as humanity's ultimate insurance policy. While the galaxy saw Earth as a young, primitive world, human scientists had been working with technologies recovered from ancient alien ruins discovered in the deepest ocean trenches. For 50 years, they had combined human creativity with alien science to build something unprecedented. Captain Do-hyun felt the ship's massive bulk shifting as it prepared to breach the surface. The Leviathan was ready to show the Corvan Empire what humanity had been building while they conquered lesser worlds. The awakening giant was about to rise, and the galaxy would never be the same. The 72-hour deadline expired at exactly 14:32 Earth Standard Time. Across the planet, millions of people gathered around their screens, watching their supposedly helpless defense fleet maintain formation in the face of overwhelming odds. 12 aging frigates and 6 orbital weapons platforms floated in space like toys compared to the massive Corvan armada. Admiral Hyunwoo stood on his flagship's bridge, savoring the moment. His tactical displays showed every human vessel locked in his targeting computers. With a gesture, he could turn Earth's entire fleet into expanding clouds of superheated plasma. "Begin the demonstration," he ordered his weapons officer. "Destroy their largest frigate first. Let them watch their protectors." The Corvan dreadnought's main cannon began to charge, energy building to levels that could crack a moon. But before the weapon could fire, every sensor on the bridge erupted in alarms that made the crew's blood freeze. "Admiral," screamed Navigation Officer Carden, his voice breaking with panic. "Something's happening in the Pacific Ocean. The water, it's moving." On the main display, satellite feeds showed something impossible. The Pacific Ocean was draining away like water down a massive bathtub drain. Billions of tons of seawater poured into caverns that shouldn't exist, revealing ocean floor that had been hidden for millennia. "What sorcery is this?" Admiral Hyunwoo demanded, but his crew had no answers. The water continued to disappear, creating whirlpools larger than entire continents. Sea life fled in terror as ancient trenches revealed themselves to be something far more significant. What the Corvans had assumed was natural ocean floor began to shift and move, massive sections sliding apart, like pieces of a puzzle. Then the impossible happened. The ocean floor cracked open like an egg, and from the depths rose something that defied every law of physics the Corvans understood. The Leviathan emerged slowly, water cascading off its hull in waterfalls that seemed to fall upward before gravity reasserted itself. The ship was beyond massive. At 15 kilometers long and 5 kilometers wide, it dwarfed even the largest Corvan dreadnought. Its hull gleamed with a material that seemed to shift between solid metal and liquid energy, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. The surface was covered with weapon emplacements that pulsed with power signatures unlike anything in Corvan databases. "By the void," whispered Tactical Officer Nektar. "How did they hide something that size? Our deep space sensors should have detected a structure that massive. But the Leviathan stealth systems had been perfected over decades. Its hull could mimic the ocean floor, masking its energy signature and making it invisible to conventional sensors. The ship had literally been the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, camouflaged as a natural formation, while it waited for this moment. As the Supercarrier fully breached the surface, it began to rise into the atmosphere. The water that had concealed it for so long fell away in impossible patterns, defying gravity as the ship's field generators created localized distortions in space-time itself. The Leviathan wasn't just big. It was generating its own gravitational field. Admiral Wu Jin appeared on every communication screen throughout the Corvan fleet. Unlike the younger officers the aliens had dealt with before, this man carried himself with the confidence of someone who had planned for this exact moment his entire life. His uniform bore no rank insignia the Corvans recognized, but his presence filled the screen with quiet authority. "I am Admiral Wu Jin of the Earth Defense." "Force," he said, his voice carrying across space with crystal clarity. "You have entered our system with hostile intent and threatened our people. You now have 30 minutes to power down your weapons and withdraw to beyond our outer asteroid belt. This is your only warning." The transmission included sensor data that made the Corvan computers crash and restart. The Leviathan's power output was beyond their instruments' ability to measure. Whatever technology powered the massive ship was generating energy on the scale of a small star. "Impossible," Admiral Hyunwoo snarled. "No primitive world could build such a vessel." But his protests died as the Leviathan's weapon ports began to open. Hundreds of launcher bays revealed themselves along the ship's hull, each one containing weapons that operated on principles the Corvans had never encountered. Energy readings spiked beyond the scales of their sensors as targeting systems locked onto every ship in the Corvan fleet simultaneously. Deep within the Leviathan, Lieutenant Hai Rin sat at her weapons console, her neural interface connected directly to the ship's targeting computers. Through the connection, she could feel each Corvan vessel as a distinct presence, their shields and armor analyzed down to the molecular level. Her weapons weren't just advanced, they were revolutionary, capable of bypassing conventional defenses. "Entirely. All weapon systems are locked and loaded," she reported to Admiral Wu Jin. "I have firing solutions on every hostile vessel. Their shields won't protect them from what we're carrying." The Corvan fleet hung motionless in space, their earlier confidence shattered. For the first time in their empire's history, they faced an opponent whose technology they couldn't understand or counter. The primitive humans had revealed themselves to be anything but helpless, and the galaxy's balance of power had just shifted forever. Admiral Hyunwoo's face twisted with rage as he stared at the impossible sight before him. The massive human ship floated in space like a metallic mountain, its hull pulsing with energy patterns that made his sensors scream warnings. His pride, built on 1,000 conquered worlds, could not accept what he was seeing. "Impossible," he snarled, spittle flying from his lips. "No backwater planet could build such a thing. It's a trick, an illusion." He turned to his weapons officer, his eyes blazing with fury. "Destroy that oversized barge. Show these primitives the true power of the Corvan Empire." The order rippled through the alien fleet like wildfire. 47 warships turned their weapons toward the Leviathan, their energy cores building to maximum output. The space around Earth lit up like a miniature sun as the Corvans unleashed everything they had. Planet-killer beams that had reduced entire worlds to molten slag lanced through space, followed by antimatter torpedoes that could crack continents. Plasma cannons that burned at temperatures rivaling stellar cores, fired in perfect synchronization. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize a dozen worlds, all focused on the single human vessel. The energy barrage struck the Leviathan's shields in a display that should have been visible from Mars. But instead of the expected explosion, something impossible happened. The devastating weapons simply vanished. The planet killers disappeared like raindrops hitting an ocean. The antimatter torpedoes flickered out of existence as if they had never been fired. "What in the void?" gasped Corvan Science Officer Velcron, frantically checking his instruments. "The energy readings, they're not reflecting or deflecting, they're just gone." The Leviathan's shield technology operated on principles that the galaxy had never seen. Instead of blocking attacks, the barriers absorbed incoming energy and channeled it directly into the ship's power cores. Every shot made the human vessel stronger, feeding its weapon systems with the enemy's own firepower. Admiral Wu Jin's voice crackled across the communication channels, calm and measured. "Your demonstration is noted, Admiral Hyunwoo. Now allow us to provide our own." Deep within the Leviathan, Flight Commander Young-ho received the launch order. All squadrons, this is command. Begin Operation Thunderbolt. Show them what human ingenuity can accomplish. Pilot Yong-soo felt his neural interface sync completely with his fighter craft. The vessel wasn't just a machine he controlled, it was an extension of his own body and mind. As he launched from the Leviathan's massive flight deck, his ship began to phase between dimensions, flickering in and out of normal space like a ghost. "Ghost Squadron launching," he reported, his voice eerily calm as his fighter disappeared from Corvan sensors. Beginning demonstration. The human fighters were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, built using technology reverse-engineered. From ancient alien artifacts, they could slip between dimensions, becoming untouchable while still able to strike at targets in normal space. The pilots didn't use traditional controls. Instead, their thoughts became the ship's actions, making them faster than any computer-controlled system. Jong-soo's squadron materialized around the Corvan formation like phantoms. Their weapons weren't designed to destroy. They were precision instruments meant to disable and capture. Energy pulses struck Corvan ships at specific points, overloading systems and creating cascade failures throughout their networks. "Target the command nodes," Yong-soo instructed his wingman. "Leave the crews alive but take their toys away." The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 10 minutes. Human fighters phased through Corvan shields as if they didn't exist, striking with surgical precision. Each hit disabled weapon systems, navigation computers, or life support backups. The aliens found themselves fighting enemies they couldn't even see most of the time. Back aboard the Leviathan, Engineer Subin monitored the cyber warfare assault that accompanied the fighter attack. Her screens showed data streams flowing, like rivers of light as human AI systems invaded Corvan networks with devastating efficiency. "Their computer security is centuries behind ours," she reported to Admiral Wu Jin. "Our viruses are spreading through their entire fleet. We have administrative access to their primary systems." The Corvan ships began to betray their own crews. Weapons turned offline without warning. Navigation systems reported false coordinates. Life support systems cycled to minimum settings, making the alien vessels barely habitable. Most terrifying of all, the ship's own computers began playing human music through their communication systems. Admiral Hyunwoo watched in growing horror as his mighty dreadnought's bridge lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in hellish red light. His tactical displays showed system after system going offline, controlled by an outside force he couldn't fight. "Sir," his communications officer reported with a trembling voice, "we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from inside our own ship." Admiral Wu Jin's face appeared on screens throughout the Corvan fleet, transmitted through their own hijacked systems. "Gentlemen, your vessels are now under our control. Your weapons are disabled, your engines are locked, and your life support is set to minimum sustainable levels. You have two choices: withdraw immediately, or remain here as our guests until you learn better manners." The demonstration was complete. Half the Corvan fleet drifted helplessly in space, their crews alive but their ships completely compromised. The other half remained functional, only because the humans chose to let them, a mercy that was somehow more terrifying than destruction would have been. Admiral Wu Jin's hologram flickered to life on the Corvan flagship's darkened bridge, his image transmitted through their own compromised systems. The emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the alien command center, where crew members frantically tried to regain control of their ship. The human admiral looked older than his actual 68 years, his face marked by decades of carrying humanity's greatest secret. "Admiral Hyunwoo," Wu Jin said, his voice echoing through the disabled dreadnought. "I believe introductions are in order. I am Admiral Wu Jin, Supreme Commander of Earth's Deep Defense Initiative. For over a century, we've been preparing for this exact moment." The Corvan admiral struggled to his feet, his pride wounded more than his body. Around him, his bridge crew watched in stunned silence as their most advanced warship remained completely under human control. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Your world was surveyed 50 years ago. You had nothing but primitive rockets." Wu Jin's smile was cold as winter. "That's exactly what we wanted you to believe. The Leviathan isn't just a weapon, Admiral. It's humanity's promise that we will never again be defenseless. While your empire conquered primitive worlds, we were building something unprecedented. The hologram gestured, and the Corvan ship's main display activated against its crew's will. Images flashed across the screen, ancient alien ruins discovered in Earth's ocean depths, technology far older than the Corvan Empire. Human scientists, working with artifacts that defied known physics. Generation after generation of humanity's brightest minds dedicated to a single goal, ensuring their species' survival. The ruins we found weren't just archaeological treasures, Wu Jin explained. They were a gift from a civilization that faced extinction from galactic empires like yours. They left behind the tools needed to level the playing field. Communications. Officer Ji-Woo monitored dozens of alien communication frequencies from her station aboard the Leviathan. Her screens showed a galaxy-wide network lighting up with frantic transmissions as word of the encounter spread like wildfire. The quantum communication arrays buzzed with encrypted messages, flying between distant star systems. "Sir," she reported to Admiral Wu Jin, "the Corvan fleet is transmitting everything to their high command, but they're not the only ones watching. We're detecting communications from the Zaltarian Collective, the Nexus Federation, and at least 10 other major powers. They all monitored the engagement through their spy networks. The galaxy's power structure was shifting in real time. For millennia, civilizations had risen and fallen based on their military might and technological advancement. The Corvan Empire had ruled through fear and superior firepower. But now, a single human ship had demonstrated technology that made their entire fleet look like toys. Admiral Wu Jin turned his attention back to the Corvan commander. "You have a choice, Admiral Hyun-Woo. Return to your empire and tell them Earth is no longer a target. Spread the word that humanity has claimed its place among the stars. Or continue down this path and discover what other surprises we've prepared during our century of planning." The threat was clear, but unspoken. If the Leviathan was what humanity showed to the galaxy, what else were they hiding? The disabled Corvan ships hung in space like wounded animals, their crews alive but their vessels completely helpless. It was a demonstration of power tempered with mercy, a very human combination that confused and terrified the aliens. "This isn't over," Admiral Hyun-Woo snarled, but his words lacked conviction. His 1,000-ship armada had been reduced to scrap metal by a single human vessel and a squadron of impossible fighters. "No," Wu Jin agreed. "It's just beginning, but it's beginning on our terms now." The Corvan fleet began its humiliating retreat, their damaged ships limping toward the edge of Earth's solar system. Those vessels still capable of hyperspace flight carried the disabled ones, a convoy of defeat that would be remembered throughout galactic history. As they reached the system's boundary, Admiral Hyun-Woo transmitted one final message. "The Corvan Empire will remember this day, humans. The galaxy will know what you've done here." "We're counting on it," Wu Jin replied. As the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, Captain Yoon Seo approached her commander with a tablet displaying incoming communications. Her expression mixed excitement with concern as she read the messages, flooding their systems. "Sir, we're receiving priority transmissions from 12 different galactic powers, the Zaltarian Collective, the Andromedan Trade Union, the Vorthan Republic. They're all requesting immediate diplomatic meetings. Some are offering trade agreements, others are proposing military alliances, a few are asking about non-aggression pacts." Admiral Wu Jin studied the list, recognizing names that had dominated galactic politics for centuries. Civilizations that had never acknowledged Earth's existence were now desperate to establish relationships with humanity. The balance of power had shifted, and everyone wanted to be on the winning side. "Schedule meetings with all of them," he ordered, "but make it clear that Earth sets the terms. We've spent a century preparing for war. Now we need to prepare for peace." The Leviathan began its descent back toward Earth's oceans, where it would return to its hidden sanctuary. But the galaxy would never forget what had emerged from those depths. Humanity had announced its arrival on the galactic stage, not with words or diplomacy, but with the undeniable proof of their preparedness and strength. In the depths of space, ancient civilizations stirred, some in fear, others in curiosity, all in respect. The stars would never look at Earth the same way again. The End Admiral Wu Jin's hologram flickered into existence on the Corvan flagship's emergency-lit bridge, the projection so clear it seemed he was actually standing among the defeated aliens. His weathered face bore the lines of a man who had carried the weight of humanity's survival for decades. Behind him, the Leviathan's bridge hummed with activity as his crew monitored the aftermath of their devastating demonstration. "Admiral Hyunwoo," Wu Jin began, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who had planned this moment for half a century. "I believe it's time we had an honest conversation about the future of galactic politics." The Corvan commander struggled to maintain his composure as his ship's systems remained completely under human control. His tactical displays showed the humiliating truth. 23 of his vessels were dead in space, their crews alive but helpless. The remaining ships could only watch as their empire's reputation crumbled in real time. "For over a century, we've been preparing for this moment," Wu Jin continued, gesturing toward the massive human supercarrier visible through the viewport. "What you see isn't the result of desperation or luck. The Leviathan represents 5 generations of human dedication to a single goal, ensuring our species never faces extinction at the hands of galactic bullies." The hologram shifted to show historical footage that made the Corvan crew gasp. Deep ocean excavations revealing ancient alien ruins, human scientists working with technology that predated their empire by millions of years, generation after generation, of Earth's brightest minds dedicating their lives to reverse engineering weapons and defenses beyond conventional understanding. "The civilization that left these gifts understood something your empire never learned," Wu Jin explained. "True strength doesn't come from conquering the weak. It comes from being prepared to defend what matters most." Communications Officer Ji Wu worked frantically at her station aboard the Leviathan, her screens displaying a galaxy-wide communication network that was lighting up like a festival. Quantum transmissions raced between star systems as the news of humanity's emergence spread faster than light itself. "Admiral," she reported, "we're monitoring communications from 47 different civilizations. The Corvan defeat is being broadcast across every major news network in the galaxy. Some are calling it the most significant shift in galactic's power in 1,000 years." Her secondary screens showed reactions from across the known universe. On the trade world of Zephyria Prime, merchants were already calculating the value of potential human technology. The warrior clans of the Drachnoth sector were expressing grudging respect for humanity's tactical brilliance. Even the ancient elders of the Cosmic Council were requesting detailed reports about Earth's capabilities. "The Corvan Empire's 1,000 worlds suddenly seem very small compared to what you've accomplished," Jiwu added, watching as star charts recalculated shipping routes to avoid potential conflict with Earth. Admiral Wu Jin turned his full attention back to the defeated Corvan commander. The alien's blue-tinted skin had paled to an almost grey color as the reality of his situation became clear. His empire's military doctrine had never accounted for facing an opponent whose technology was fundamentally superior. "You have a choice." "Admiral Hyunwoo," Wu Jin said, his tone becoming deadly serious. "Return to your empire and tell them Earth is no longer a target. Explain that humanity has claimed its rightful place among the galactic powers. Do this, and your crews live to see their families again." The Corvan Admiral's mandibles clicked nervously as he processed the ultimatum. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders that would never come. Their ship's computer systems were completely compromised, their weapons offline, their engines locked in standby mode. Yoetzi Wu Jin continued, "You can continue down this path of aggression and discover what other surprises we've prepared during our century of planning. I assure you, the Leviathan is just the beginning of what humanity has built." The threat hung in the air like a blade. If this massive supercarrier was merely the opening move in humanity's grand strategy, what else were they hiding? The implications terrified every alien present. Admiral Hyunwoo finally found his voice. "The Corvan High Command will demand explanations. They'll want to know how a primitive world could outsmart an empire that's grown fat on easy." Conquests? Wu Jin interrupted. Tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them that humanity spent 100 years preparing for war while you wasted time terrorizing defenseless worlds. The crippled Corvan fleet began its slow, humiliating retreat toward the edge of Earth's solar system. Those ships still capable of hyperspace flight towed the disabled vessels, creating a convoy of defeat that would be remembered throughout galactic history. The once mighty armada limped away like wounded animals, their crews transmitting desperate reports to their distant homeworld. As the alien ships reached the system's boundary and prepared to jump to hyperspace, Captain Yun Seo approached Admiral Wu Jin with urgent intelligence reports. Her expression mixed excitement with concern. As she read from her tablet, "Sir, we're receiving priority communications from 12 major galactic powers. The Zaltarian Collective is offering a trade partnership worth trillions of credits. The Andromedan Defense League wants to discuss military cooperation. The Vorthan Republic is requesting an immediate ceasefire and non-aggression pact." She scrolled through more messages, each one representing a civilization that had previously ignored Earth's existence. The Crystalline Syndicate is offering to share their energy technology. The Nomad fleets want safe passage guarantees through our system. Even the isolationist Keepers of the Void are asking for diplomatic meetings. Admiral Wu Jin studied the list of requests, recognizing names that had dominated galactic politics for millennia. Civilizations that commanded hundreds of worlds were now desperate to establish positive relationships with humanity. The balance of power had shifted completely, and everyone wanted to be on Earth's good side. "Schedule preliminary meetings with all of them," he ordered, "but make it clear that these discussions will happen on our terms in our system under our security protocols." The Leviathan began its majestic descent back toward Earth's Pacific Ocean, where it would return to its hidden sanctuary. But the galaxy would never forget what had emerged from those depths. Humanity had announced its arrival on the galactic stage, not with desperate pleas or tentative diplomacy, but with the undeniable proof of their technological superiority and strategic patience. Admiral Wu Jin smiled as he watched the last Corvan ship disappear into hyperspace, carrying news that would reshape galactic civilization. Humanity had waited patiently for this moment, building their strength in secret while the galaxy underestimated them. The stars would never look at Earth the same way again. The end.